Live from New York, it's the show that's having a heated debate about the most underrated Christmas candy, which is...
You don't even have it.
No, I think it's gingerbread house roof. Gingerbread house roofs.
As you have described, there are different types of must-wins. There is the tangible must-win, like for playoff or Super Bowl hopes, you've got to have it. And then there's the vibes must-win.
Correct.
So they're so this week I would argue Philly is facing a must-win both. Tangibly, it's a must-win because of who they're playing for the division, and vibes-wise, it's an absolute must-win.
Double must-win.
Baltimore, I would argue, playing neither. Tangibly, they don't have to have it, and vibes-wise, they don't have to have it. If they lose to San Francisco this week, no one's going to panic. Houston is facing just a tangible must-win.
Gotcha.
They need it for their playoff hopes,
totally
but even if they lose...
We've come so far.
Even if they lose...
He's stalling.
Because I'm leading up to it. I think you're going to agree with me. For Dallas, it is just a vibes must-win, not a tangible must-win. Because as I explained yesterday, they can lose to Miami and still be in the exact same position to win the division. It's all about whether or not Philly's going to drop a game. Mm-hmm. But if they lose to Miami, even if Philly drops the game against the Giants, and it's like, oh my gosh, the Cowboys are really in position to win the NFC East, people will still panic. You will still mentally downgrade them off the contender tier, I feel. And I think they will have real doubt set in about, are we what Brew has described us as outside of AT&T Stadium? And what is so unique to me about this game is somebody has to win this game, somebody has to lose it.
Yep.
And there will be referendums on both teams accordingly. If Miami loses this game, Brew, it will be a vibes disaster.
Yeah.
And if they win it, people will be like, oh, look, they played some fighters, not some break dancers. They showed they could do it. And the flip side for Dallas. So it's a must-win from an emotional perspective, but not a practical perspective. That's how I feel.
I do agree with that. This is an absolute must-win for the Cowboys. Not from a record standpoint. They are an S-Bob team. I think you guys will actually agree with me now. In fact, you did about a month or two ago, right? You agreed they were S-Bob.
No, I did not, Brew, and I'm not going to argue about the S-Bob.
They don't have to get to this. No. Them getting to the conference championship is good enough.
It would be the best. Brew, I'm not having the same argument. It's not good enough, but there is no bust.
Dallas Cowboys, you need to get to the Super Bowl.
Or bust.
And if they lose this game, they are not getting to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
They're not getting to the Super Bowl because it will just, look, their antennas couldn't be any more on alert. We got it, man. Is there really something wrong with us on the road? Like, we can't win on the road. Not only can we not win on the road against good teams, we get destroyed by good teams on the road.
Correct.
So let's go out there and prove otherwise. Can we beat good teams? We beat Philly, at home, but we're 1-3 against teams with winning records. Let's go out and prove we can beat a good team. If they go with all of that in their minds, if they go there coming off a bad loss in Buffalo and get beat, I mean, it'd be nicer if they play close and lose, but just getting beat. Because Miami to me is cute. But they are not a Super Bowl contender.
They're not a contender?
Now, they're nice. They're a little slightly dangerous. They're not tough enough to me to win the Super Bowl.
Okay.
And so if Dallas goes there and loses to Miami, how in the world am I supposed to expect them to win 3 games on the road in the NFC when there are at least 2 teams on their level?
Miami
it won't happen.
Is 0-3 against teams currently above 500. They lost to the Bills, got rolled by the Eagles, and the Chiefs put up 21, which they rarely do. Cowboy, you're very confident in the Cowboys, even though the Bills ran for 266.
Yeah.
Dolphins like to run the ball. I assume Mike McDaniel has been in the lab cooking something interesting.
Yeah, I think
Why are you so confident?
They run differently, but they run.
Because I think the Cowboys, first of all, one of their best run stoppers was out for the game. Everyone's dealing with injuries, but I just think that should be noted going into that game. They drafted Mazi Smith in the first round to try to be a D-tackle run defender. He's been a rookie who's struggled. So they had some weaknesses there, but also I think it caught them off guard. I think it caught all of us off guard that the Bills' game plan was going to try to win that way. I don't think any of us saw that game plan coming.
That's no excuse.
No. I'm not saying it's an excuse, but Wildes is asking me why I would feel differently. I think they know exactly what Miami's going to try to do. Miami is going to do what they have done all year long.
Throw it to
which
Tyreek
is,
Hill, very
well, I think they use the run as a threat to set up the pass, very similar to what San Francisco's doing. Not starting a Purdy conversation, but it is the Mike McDaniel via Kyle Shanahan system. And so I don't think it's going to catch them off guard. Also, and I think we can show it to you. I might use it a little earlier, Hubs. I apologize. Dallas off a loss. I know Brew last year, Brew was talking about how they've been a bad road team for back-to-back years. So since over the last 2+ years, off a loss, it's not only that they haven't lost back-to-back games, they have dominated their opponent.
Do we have a tomato? Do we know how many of those 9 wins were against?
Well, I know that this year,
probably
one of
8
them.
of them at least.
Well, this year I remember very well. One of them was against certified tomato can New England, because you guys tried to sell me on that the Cowboys could potentially be on upset alert against them after losing to the Cardinals. I don't remember who they played right after Philadelphia, but they blew them out. And let me say one other thing about Dallas is the 1-3 against teams with a winning record is accurate. It's also accurate to say 3-3 against teams 500 or better. That Seattle, hold on.
No, Seattle moved out of tomato can category.
How many 500 or better? How many 500 teams, 7-7 at this point, are legit Super Bowl contenders? Well, I would say Buffalo, which is
Buffalo's 8-6. Buffalo's above.
Is there any 7-7 team?
Well, so here's, I guess, the point that I would make is this: Seattle and the Rams. Right now, the Rams are in the playoffs. Seattle's the first team out. Either of those teams could be playoff teams, and Dallas beat both of them. So I do think there is a very real possibility that when the playoff field is set in the NFC, that Dallas will have played 5 of the other 6 playoff teams and beaten 4 of them. Beat Philly. We'll see if I think they're going to beat Detroit. They've already beaten the Rams. They've beaten Seattle. The one team they would have played and not beaten, obviously, is San Francisco, which is the big boogeyman of the conference right now. But I think Dallas's struggles against good teams is maybe right now a touch overstated. I think it is because
they're
we saw
1-3.
Right, but
they're 1-3.
I understand they're 1-3. But so will you feel differently about Dallas if the Rams and Seattle win this week, and they're both above 500? Will you fundamentally change your opinion on them?
I will fundamentally change my opinion when I see what they do against Miami. Okay. That's what it will.
Okay.
That's the way to do it. Don't answer the question.
No.
Answer your own.
And the run game, it'll be interesting quickly. Philadelphia and, San Francisco and Buffalo ran like with power over the Cowboys. Cowboys are small and fast. Miami's fast and small, too. So it'll be interesting to see how they do against this run game.
Mike McCarthy's teams have been excellent in December. Here's where they were. They beat Seattle, beat the Eagles, lost to Buffalo, and then you got the Dolphins, home against the Lions. Then the frisky Commanders, who everyone wants to give up on, but Sam Howell could light you up.
Wildes, you have been give up the ghost on the Commanders. You've been trying to sell us the Sam Howell thing all year. They finally showed a pulse. They finally showed a pulse this week because they put Jacoby Brissett in the game.
Josh,
don't you dare start talking Sam Howell. Just do this. We're trying to help you here, buddy.
Try to help you. You lost Eric Bieniemy. All of a sudden, Sam Howell cooking everybody up. In any event, will this stretch be good or bad for Dallas, bro?
Well, I agree with Mike McCarthy in that this is perfect. Because the 2 questions, can we beat good teams consistently? Can we win on the road? They get to answer that. Like, to get beat the way they did just last week, and now immediately you get to answer both of those questions. I think that's great. Like, if they were going to play Carolina at home, stomping them by 30 in Texas means nothing. Now, if they go to Miami and get a win, they're feeling better about themselves. Their fans are feeling better about them. So I agree with McCarthy that this is when you want to go through the test. And I got to be honest, I'm leaning toward thinking this will be good for them. I do think I'm not making my pick yet, but I'm leaning toward them beating Miami.
Yeah.
And I think Detroit is a notch below San Francisco, Philly, and Dallas. I think those are the 3 teams, and I don't think Detroit's on their level. So they could win these next 2. Now, Philly was feeling good about its gauntlet at first. And then the end of the gauntlet, they struggled. So we'll see how Dallas does, but I'm leaning toward thinking this will be good for them.
Yeah, listen, I think it's great for Dallas. because I agree. I believe Dallas is going to go to Miami and win, and I believe they're going to beat Detroit, and I don't think Washington's any good. So I think they are going to go into the playoffs hot, feeling good, but not so hot they feel invincible. They will have a recent enough reminder of we can get our heads handed to us if we're not totally buttoned up from the Buffalo game. And if I'm wrong, if the Cowboys collapse here, then go ahead, Wildes.
I think that's on the board.
It's on the board.
I think it's on the board that Miami can embarrass you in Miami. We just saw Sean McDermott throw a little new wrinkle at the Cowboys, and they had no answer for it. So you don't think Mike McDaniel can throw more wrinkles with that offense, where all of a sudden Dan Quinn looks silly out there?
Well, no. What I think personally is I'm not sure if Miami's going to be able to block Dallas the way Buffalo did. I also am very confident Miami's defense is not going to have the success against Dallas that Buffalo's defense did in that specific game. But at some point, we're running out of teams like that that I feel like that you guys consider are any good. Like I know you have questions about Philly. You have questions about Dallas. I thought you had major questions about Miami. I know you have major questions about the Chiefs. I think you are coming from a place of everyone but San Francisco stinks, and I guess Washington. But Super Bowl. Let me
ask you this: if he's right, let's say Miami beats Dallas by 10 or more points.
Yeah.
That would have to concern me.
I said it. I said it after Monday that the Miami game is a fork in the road to me for the Cowboys season. If they beat Miami, they are, in my opinion, going to go 13-4. I think they will win the division because I think Philly has another loss coming up because Philly, to me, is in shambles. I know we'll get to them in a moment.
Yeah.
And there won't be, to me, real room for criticism other than you can't say they are clearly the best team in football because the Niners exist. But that is, by any metric, an excellent regular season. If they collapse, if they lose to Miami and then lose to Detroit and they limp into the postseason, then you know what? Then they're not the team that I thought they were, and they need some significant changes.
But if they just lose to Miami and say beat Detroit at home, and beat Washington,
I will still have a major. Yes, then it's
not.
You will not be be able to be confident they can go on the road and win.
Yeah,
absolutely. And if they full on collapse,
it's a must win.
If I can get Nora Princiati, who wrote the great story on Aaron Rodgers on The Ringer today, she's a sharp reporter. She has been just kind of floating out there the idea of if Dallas were to full-on collapse and Jerry Jones were to react negatively to it, that we should keep an eye on the Cowboys as the potential Belichick destination.
I heard that.
And so maybe people will think I'm trying to go too glass half full when I'm saying, I don't think they'll collapse, but if they collapse, it could long run be good. I'm not arguing that. But I think if there is I don't agree with Brew that it's the reason I disagree with Brew on Super Bowl or bust is I think if they make the conference title game, it is an excellent season. But if they collapse, if they go from 10-3 to limping into the playoffs and have a short playoff run, I do think there will be a bust. I do think there will be a significant change, and it's not going to be the quarterback. It would have to be the coach.
I don't know how that Belichick thing works.
I don't either.
How do you go from
Jerry's not giving him? You think he wants Jerry in his ear every day?
If Kraft is hey, why don't we hire a GM? And Belichick's no, I'm out of here. If that's the solution, I'm out of here. I'm going to Dallas where...
But if it's a short-term marriage to get Shula's record, to have a franchise quarterback, and to potentially win a Super Bowl, maybe you do it. And for buckets and buckets of money, that's probably a bigger topic.
Then you don't need Dan Quinn?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you, Wildes.
Say no on that one. A.J. Brown caught 5 balls for 56 yards against Seattle. Also caught some heat from frustrated Eagles fans on Twitter who floated the idea that Jalen Hurts was too locked in on him. He responded, "When I make plays, everyone is happy. But when it's incomplete, it's that I'm making him throw me the ball. I get blamed for more stuff than anyone, and I'm tired of you guys playing with my character." Nick, do you think this is something or nothing?
Brew, I think it's something. We don't yet know that Philly can deal with adversity. We don't. They were 26-3 with Jalen as a starter over the last 2 years, since the beginning of last season to right now, and now they've lost 3 in a row. So they've dealt with as much losing in the last 20 days as they had dealt with in 18 months.
You don't think losing the Super Bowl's tough to bounce back from?
I think that
Yes, because they already defied what most Super Bowl losers do.
I don't know that they have yet.
Just have
what
a
do you
bad
mean?
season.
I don't.
A lot of those teams missed the playoffs.
By the way, I don't think that really measures up these days. I don't think most Super Bowl losers in modern NFL all of a sudden fall off entirely. Cincinnati went right back. Kansas City went right back as far as to the postseason. That you don't usually see a team lose the Super Bowl and then go win it. San Francisco had their quarterback hurt the following year, so there's some outlier stuff there.
What's modern?
But
The last 5 years.
Last 5-10 years, I think, yeah, I think that used to be a bigger thing than it is now. And so I don't know what, I mean, I think we've already seen signs of panic from Nick Sirianni. They changed defensive coordinators without officially doing it, trying to do it in the dark of night. Like, no, he's not fired. He's just going to be in the box. And you have A.J. Brown, who's a combustible guy, who the other thing he was tweeting about was Jalen missed the throw, that it was, it was, yeah, so I think right now the Eagles are in the worst spot they've been in under Sirianni, and I don't necessarily trust him to pull them out of it.
They're fine. A.J. Brown, wasn't he running his mouth last year during the playoffs, if I remember correctly? They made the Super Bowl and came close to winning it. I think they've had adversity. I think things like that, with him running his mouth last year, they got through that. And they had some tough games last year that they got through. You had your quarterback injured last year, Jalen Hurts. This year, he's been injured throughout the season, even though he's playing. I think this is good for them. They're a little cocky, especially Sirianni. And I think this is some humble pie that is just what they need. Now, if they struggle over these next 3 games, then I'm going to be really concerned. But I want 2 out of these 3 wins.
Just take all 3.
Blowout. No, I want them all out. 3 wins.
Okay,
I want 2 of them to be blowouts.
So I'm shocked you're not more unnerved by the Seattle game. Because they got blown out. They got leading into it. They should have been on full alert. Blown out by the Niners when the Niners called their shot. Blown out by Dallas when you could have ended the division right then and there. And you locked in at worst the 3 seed, basically, and probably the 2. And then in the Seattle game, your go-to play, the tush push, somehow that gets screwed up. That's a little unnerving. That you had a chance to go up 2 scores, you don't, because you get a penalty called on it. Then your defense, when you know it is Drew Lock passing every play, you just have to defend the pass. You let him carve you up at ease without facing a 4th down on this 90-second drive. And then Jalen has an opportunity. It's getting field goal range. We've seen Jake Elliott get a 59-yarder.
Odd pass.
And Jalen, to me, makes a mental error there. That wasn't even a physical error. That was a mental error. That is, you've been blown out in 2 straight weeks. Your go-to play, somehow you screw it up. Your defense falters against a quarterback who has never had a significant NFL moment. And then your leader quarterback throws 2 completions and 2 picks in the 4th quarter. That to me was a 5-alarm fire of a loss. And I'm surprised
it was a bad loss.
I
think one thing they'll do is get back to the run more. And focusing more on running instead. Those passes late were uncharacteristic. And I think they'll learn from that. A bad game in a 17-game season, a stretch of bad games.
Odd when he's talking about commitment.
Yeah.
Odd when he's saying.
No, that's good. That's good.
And getting back to your run game when you might be they might be without both of their starting guards this week against the Giants. Their left guard just had thumb surgery. The right guard is already dealing with an injury. Jason Kelce's a great player, but if he's without the 2 guys alongside him, it could be harder. I think Philly's in real trouble. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.